Obviously, her mother probably has no idea who any of her children belong to.
Really? It's not my fault you guys don't want to know me. It's not my fault that your dad had sex with my mother and I'm a product of that.
And it's not our fault that they both did it either.
Talk about how bad of a person that I am. So when I went out and cheated on him, it was to find security and comfort because
I know what comfort means. I've been doing this long enough, and I'm a woman.
After 8 years of an inconsistent relationship, Ms. Hoddle and Mr. Andrews finally put an end to things between them. But today, the plaintiff is suing the defendant to prove that he fathered her baby. Not accepting his ex-girlfriend's claims, Mr. Andrews is ready to go against her in court to prove that he isn't her child's biological father. Let's hear their story.
Ms. Hadel, after 8 years off and on with the defendant, the two of you called it quits just 3 months ago because he denies your 1-year-old daughter, Amarella. Now, you want to prove to him that he is her biological father. Is that correct?
yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Andrews, you say you can't.
The plaintiff goes first, explaining how paternity doubts caused an end to her long-term relationship with the defendant. Apparently, before their latest breakup, they broke up a few months into their relationship, and it was due to something Mr. Andrews did. Now, what did he do?
So, Ms. Hadel, your relationship ended because of paternity doubt?
Yes, Your Honor.
Explain.
We have had a rough road throughout these 7.5 years. 9 months into our relationship, he pregnated another female while he was living with me.
But that wasn't the end of their love journey as they got back together again, even though Mr. Andrews cheated in the ugliest way possible. This time around, the couple had plans of making babies, and guess what? They did. And although they were meant to be happy that they got what they hoped for, there was something unusual about their latest child, and that created lots of doubts in Mr. Andrews' mind.
Started our relationship back, and I had planned on another child with him. So I did get pregnant. Amarella came, and I think the doubts came because she looks different than our.
What's more is that the defendant made his doubts about being the biological father of their latest kid clear to his other kids. Whoa, that's not cool. And he agrees that isn't. But in his defense, Mr. Andrews claims he has reasons to believe the kid isn't his, and he isn't hesitant in stating them.
How does Mr. Andrews relate to Amarella because of his paternity doubt?
He calls his child and Amarella not in front of our children.
Really? Is that true, Mr. Andrews? That's not right.
No, it's not right. That's due to the things that she has said and done. She told me 2 different names.
Also, the defendant came to court with an exhibit to cement his claims. It appears that he accumulated substantial proof that his woman was cheating on him all along. Hearing him list out these proofs will make you understand why he had to end things with the plaintiff. Also, you would get why he doubts the child's paternity so badly.
You brought an exhibit.
Correct.
Is that what is contained in the exhibit, that information?
Yes, it is.
Step over there, please, sir. These are the reasons you believe you are not the father. You saw sexual text messages from another man. Is that correct?
Correct.
Explain.
The same person who I see this text message from is the same guy who she was having an affair with all along from the whole get-go. So when I seen that text message.
Interestingly, Ms. Hoddle didn't deny her ex-boyfriend's claims, even though she claims she can't recollect the details completely. If that's the case, why is she trying to pin the child in question on him when it's clear there's someone else who could be the child's father? Well, there's a saying that states that women always know who fathered their children, but that saying isn't always factual, so we can't jump into conclusions just yet.
Oh, is that what these text messages said?
I can't tell you word for word. It was
I know
sexual.
word for word.
I bet he does know word for word, but I don't, so I'm not going to disagree, but anyhow.
Was this a man you've been intimate with?
Yes.
Were the text messages leaning towards the sexual side of conversation?
Now, back to Mr. Andrews' exhibit. This part of the provided evidence will leave your mouth wide opened. You won't believe how far Ms. Haddle went to cheat on the defendant. At this point, you wonder if she did all she did because she wanted to get back at him for getting another woman pregnant in the past. Plus, she didn't seem to feel any kind of remorse when he brought awful things about her to the light.
So next piece of evidence, you jumped out of the window at 3 a.m.
Correct.
Who jumped out the window?
She did.
I was trying to get free from him.
But see, the whole
He's
thing
crazy.
is, she leave the house every time. It's always when a private call come, or it's after 3 a.m. That's the only time he able to get away from his wife, so-called.
What?
And with that said.
Wait a minute. So she gets a private call.
Right.
Then she leaves the house.
Just when you think you've heard it all, Here comes the bomber. After Amarella was conceived, the plaintiff claims she decided to come clean and start things all over with the defendant, and he agreed. But instead of trying to make things work, they just went back and forth cheating on each other.
I would like for him to get this during the
Did she
time that
think-
Amarella was conceived. In May of 2014, I told Maurice everything, who I was with, everything, and told him if he wants to make it work, we're gonna make it work. And he came back to Kansas and we conceived Amarella. We were trying for a boy.
Wait a minute. You mean to tell me there's more? Yes, there is. As it turns out, Ms. Hadel opened up to her ex-boyfriend about something utterly bizarre. This makes you wonder why she's even charging him to court for the child's paternity in the first place. Like, why even try when you've given him enough reasons to doubt the child's paternity?
4 months ago, Ms. Hadel told me about 2 other potential fathers.
Correct.
Really?
And out of spite, she just go to running her mouth, and when she get mad, she'll tell on herself.
He's full of it. But
And
I
then
apologize, Your Honor.
She told me 2 other men was daddy.
His mouth,
which
from the
was
time I
already-
wake up in
which
the
I was
morning
already
till the time I
assuming
go
from
to
the
sleep,
get-go.
doesn't-
We've seen wild outbursts on paternity court, but I don't think we've seen any like this before. These two shouldn't have been in a relationship with each other in the first place because there's no sign of love between them. However, the baby needs both her mother and her father. With that said, let's get to the results.
Old Amarella Andrew. It has been determined by this court, Mr. Andrews, you are the father.
Speaking of wild outbursts on paternity court, this case we're about to entertain you with sits on the front row. It's about a young woman accusing her mother of committing paternity fraud, and she seems to come to court with enough evidence to back her claims, or maybe not. However, the defendant claims her daughter is wrongfully accusing her and that her doubts will be cleared today. Well, here we go.
Court today because you say your mother, Ms. Harms, has continued to commit paternity fraud. She's now claiming her ex-boyfriend, Mr. Long, is your biological father, but you believe she's lying.
Yes.
Ms. Harms, you say your daughter's suit has no merit, and today you will prove Mr. Long is her father.
Apparently, this isn't their first appearance on paternity court. Yeah, cases like this exist. The plaintiff has clearly been searching for answers about her paternity and hasn't been lucky enough to get them. Let's hope she gets her answers today.
Take a look at your previous court appearance.
I hope he is my daddy. I really do. Because I really need a dad. I really, really do. I've always told her who her dad was. It's not Mr. Moore.
Mr. Moore, you are not her father.
Oh my God. Dude, who is my daddy? I can tell you, he ain't your dad.
Today's paternity candidate is Mr. Long. He's the man the defendant claims to be the plaintiff's biological father. But for some reason, Ms. Robinson doesn't believe he's her dad. Well, let's hear her reasons for doubting her mother's claims.
Your Honor, I feel that my mother has been committing paternity fraud my whole life. I've never got a straight answer on who my father is. It was 1 or 2 guys, 2 or 3 guys, no certain name. I'm too old for this. Excuse me, Your Honor, that's...
Not letting her daughter complete her statement, Ms. Harms cuts in to dispute Ms. Robinson's claims. As a result, it's become a long argument between mother and daughter. And this isn't the first time this court is witnessing this from both of them. I just have a gut feeling that it's going to be a long day today in court.
So I've
So
always
today-
told her who her father was.
No, you haven't.
I've always, and I never kept any secrets from you.
Mom, you never told me who my father was.
My mom kept secrets.
gave me names of who could be my
I've
father.
always told you from birth, sweetheart, who your
No, you
dad
did
was.
not, Mom.
Your Honor, she refuses to believe me, as like she did with Mr. Moore previously.
And so,
Seeing the chaos in having both women in the same courtroom, Judge Lake is forced to intervene to make the hearing more fruitful. Now, with the atmosphere more accommodating, Ms. Robinson walks her mother and the court through how difficult it's for her to live her life without a father figure. And hearing her pour out her heart, you can feel her pain.
Robinson, I would like you to take a moment and just walk your mother and talk to her about how difficult it's been not knowing who your father is, and more importantly, having to go through various men and find out that they're not
Yeah,
your
the
father.
journey has been very hard.
Excuse me.
Let her speak, Ms. Harms, and then I will let you speak.
Me in school, doing sports, basketball.
Okay, we get why the plaintiff feels so much resentment towards her mom. So it's time to hear the defendant's response to all her daughter has said. But the funny thing is this: neither daughter nor mother is allowing the other person to get a word in. I mean, it's so chaotic having both of them in the same courtroom because of the bad blood between them.
Was that a dad? Maybe
I'm not sure how well you
Maybe
listened.
not her dad at that time.
Miss Harm.
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm not sure how well you listened. Did you hear her?
Yes, but I'm trying to
Now
speak on that, too.
respond what she
It's
said.
difficult talking to her because she acts like she's
I'm
my mom half
giving
the
you
time.
your
the
moment.
way she talks to me.
It would be unfair to say Ms. Harms has been nothing but a bad mother to Ms. Robinson all her life. Okay, she did some wrong in terms of making sure her daughter's father was present in her life. Agreed. But she clearly did a great job raising her to become the amazing woman she is today. So let's understand why she's so upset with the plaintiff.
Right now in this moment.
The fact that she sits there and lies.
What
And if I got
lie
to raise
is she
her-
telling?
If I didn't raise her, she wouldn't have or be who she is today.
You didn't give me to.
I get
exactly.
That's like pretty much
A
everything
person
you have,
is strong
I've given
because
you.
they took care of themselves.
Pretty much
Okay.
everything she has, I've given her. Every time I
No.
get any new furniture, anything, I give.
We get that it's important to get Ms. Robinson's paternity issues resolved. Quite right. But something needs to be done about the fractured mother-daughter relationship, and Judge Lake can't agree less.
Ladies, what I see here is there's so much at stake. Not just finding out who your father is, that's
my
important,
relationship- my kids
but
are
your
like that.
relationship
That's
with your mother.
Yes.
And like you said,
We
you
don't
have
have
children.
one.
That's their grandmother.
We don't
Yes.
have one.
That's your fault, though.
No, it ain't. She get mad at me. She won't let me see my granddaughters or my great-grandson.
You never
That's
let me see
wrong
my
with you.
daddy, though.
Focusing on the paternity issue at hand, there's an argument between the plaintiff and the defendant, not for the first time today. This time, it's about whether or not Ms. Harms told her daughter who her biological father was or not. But Ms. Robinson claims she was too young to approach him. At this point, it's only logical that Mr. Long has a say on the matter on ground.
I didn't even hear
no.
about him until I was 10.
What, you act like you couldn't have went? I told you always knew who your dad was.
Where was I gonna
You knew
go
we were
at
in
10
Georgia,
years old?
Marietta. You knew he lived next door.
You
to-
see how she puts
to
adult
my
stress?
Miss Harms, are you
Child.
suggesting that a 10-year-old child was supposed to go
I
around the
was
corner and
taking
ring
her-
the doorbell?
She was a baby. I would go there and visit. I would knock on Mr. Long's door.
He would have.
Okay, Mr. Long didn't dispute the fact that Ms. Harms told him about the possibility of him fathering her daughter. However, he has doubts that he's indeed Ms. Robinson's father, and his reason for doubting would blow your mind.
Baby, if she's not saying you the father.
Right, I didn't say she didn't say I wasn't the father. She said I was the father, but I had doubt because, you know, she was supposed to be sleeping with someone else in my family, which was a cousin.
In the family.
Supposedly now.
I
And then
ain't
some
never-
more guys in the neighborhood. So that's where the doubt came.
It's been beyond outburst between the plaintiff and the defendant all day, and I doubt we will see the end of it if the hearing continues. So it's best we just get it over with and find out what the test result says.
36-year-old Jennifer Robinson. It has been determined by this court. Mr. Long, you are her father.
Ms. Holshue claims the defendant's father is her biological father. Why? Because her mother had a secret affair with him. Oh, okay. However, Ms. Howard and her siblings are antagonizing her aggressively on that note. Well, here we go again.
Holshue, you claim your mother had an affair with the defendant's father, and today you're in court to prove that he is your biological father. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Ms. Howard, you and your sisters say Ms. Holshue is a delusional troublemaker whose promiscuous mother destroyed your...
The plaintiff claims the defendants are her biological sisters because she heard it from multiple significant sources. Also, she states another logical reason that solidifies her claim. However, one of her alleged half-sisters antagonizes her again. Interestingly, Ms. Holshue claims she has her reasons for wanting to be sure about her paternity, and it has nothing to do with the Howard family rights.
Because my mother and Mr. Howard both told me that he was my father, and also family members on his side of the family have also said that I'm his daughter.
And
And
you-
also I'm in the obituary as his daughter.
You are.
Yes, I am, ma'am.
That was a big mistake that her name was put into the obituary. Our father's sister did that.
No.
And did not.
With the level of counterpoising she's getting from the Howard sisters, you can't help but wonder how long they've been at it. Ms. Holshue claims she's known the truth about her paternity from a young age in the most awkward manner imaginable. But luckily for her, her supposed half-sisters knew nothing about the rumor as at that time.
find out?
Whenever I was about
this?
12 or 13.
How did you find out?
Because my stepdad was drunk and he was fighting with my mother, and he said, well, who do you think your father is? And so after that, my mother told me, and she took me and introduced me to DL. And
As expected, one of the Howard sisters has something to say about the plaintiff wanting to confirm her paternity for health reasons. She isn't trying to sympathize with her, no. She's literally telling her it's not relevant, and that's not fair.
Your Honor, first and foremost, I just want to say, I don't get me wrong, I feel for her that she has cancer, but there's kids out there that have been adopted that have cancer that have no idea about anything of their family history. I get it, the doctors ask family history.
What's more is that the Howard sisters claim they never heard nothing about their alleged half-sister. However, one of them did mention that there was a time she met up with their dad and the plaintiff and her mom were also present. And that moment, he spilled the beans about Ms. Holshue being his daughter. Well, all I can sense is that they hate her because their father cheated on their mother with the plaintiff's mother.
To the Howard sisters, growing up, did you ever hear about Miss Holshue?
Never heard her.
Did anyone ever mention her?
Never.
Yes, one time when I was 19 years old, my dad, he was in from California. My parents were already divorced. We were in from California. He had us all meet him out at an old country bar. We showed up, and her mother was there.
Now we know for sure that the late Mr. Howard told one of the sisters about their supposed half-sister. If that's the case, why are they finding it hard to accept her? Well, they seem to have tangible reasons for that.
Don't want to speak ill, but my dad he's dead. Her mother has passed away. It's obvious my dad messed around on my mom. It wasn't just her mother.
Exactly.
It was never just
I
her
agree with
mother.
that one.
And I have heard many things that say the same thing about her mother.
Okay, so what
can't
you're
just-
saying is,
Oh, that's not all. Something happened while Mr. Howard was in a relationship with Ms. Holshue's mother, which caused their separation. And that's according to one of the Howard sisters' testimony. Although we can't tell if it's true or false, it does explain why the defendants are so adamant that the plaintiff isn't their half-sister. Yet their words are not enough to resolve this paternity case.
Can I also say, when I was in California living with my father, we had packed up our things and moved out because my father had gone to at the bar where her mother was working and caught her cheating on him. That gave me
No topic.
the thought that obviously her mother probably has no idea who any of her children belong to.
Here is something interesting. Although Ms. Holshue's mother was married to someone else when she conceived her, she had a secret affair with the defendant's father. Whoa! Now that makes the whole situation complicated somewhat.
Holshue,
yes,
your mother never told you there were any other possibilities?
let me tell you this story. My mother married the person I thought was my biological dad when she was 14. Her and Mr. Howard were childhood sweethearts. Okay, my mother didn't have me until she was 20 days before she turned 21. And she was married to the same man all that time.
So what you're saying is your mom married very young,
Yes.
but she and Mr. Howard, the deceased, their father.
What's fascinating is this. The defendants claim they knew nothing about their latest father's cheating habits until they were teenagers. But that doesn't mean he didn't cheat on their mother before they were born, does it? Interestingly, not all of the Howard sisters are against the possibility that Ms. Holshue could be their half-sister.
As teenagers.
Right.
As teenagers.
Only as teenagers.
When you say she's just trying to insert herself into our family,
Yes.
why? What's her motive? You obviously
Exactly.
don't want her there.
Our sister is very good friends with her, and she wants her to be her sister. And we told her to prove it if she's our sister, and she kept denying.
It is clear that no matter how hard Ms. Holshue tries to prove to the defendants, they won't accept her as one of their own. Perhaps the only way she can win them over is if the DNA test result comes out positive. So let's wait no further. It's time to hear the test result.
Of Holshue versus Howard. It has been determined by this court that the probability of half-siblingship between Diana Howard and Misty Lynn Holshue is 98.1%.
After After previously testing the paternity of one of their kids, the plaintiff and the defendant are back to court again to test their other kid. The outcome of this result means a lot to them, as it would determine where their marriage leads to from here. As a result, the stakes in court today are very high.
After you and your wife received shocking results in this courtroom surrounding your daughter's paternity, you returned home and realized you have good reason to doubt your son Keith's paternity. And now your marriage is on the rocks.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. McCrory, you claim your daughter's results surprised you.
It appears that the couple were separated a few days before the child in question was conceived. So the question is this: did Ms. McCrory have another sex partner during their short breakup? If she did, it would mean that there's a great chance that someone else besides her husband could have fathered her son. Let's hope that's not the case here.
In your court papers, it says you all broke up for a few days around Keith's conception. Is that true?
Yes, Your Honor.
You did?
Yes.
And so during that breakup, Ms. McCrory, did you sleep with anyone else? Were you intimate with anyone else?
Yes, I was.
Did you use protection?
No.
Had you ever told Mr. McCrory about this?
No, I didn't.
My, oh my. Now we know she cheated on her husband during their short breakup, but how can she be so sure the kid is her husband's son and not the other guy's? It would be interesting to hear her reasons for thinking her husband fathered him.
But during the pregnancy with Keith Jr., you never told him, even after the birth?
No, because I just 1,000% know that's his child right there. That's his kid. It's gonna come back. It's gonna come back. It's his child. You can tell. Look at.
And so you just felt like you didn't have to tell the whole truth because you were so certain Keith Jr. was.
Apparently, Ms. McCrory continued her secret affair with the man she cheated on her husband with, even after they got back together. Her husband came to court with proof that suggests that. Also, his proof makes it evident that there might be other men involved besides the man he knows of. But rather than owning up to her wrongdoings, the defendant tries to argue her way out of it. Let's get one thing straight, though. The plaintiff's substantial evidence isn't enough to prove that he didn't father the child they came to court for.
The potential father, she would promise him, say she'd send him pictures and stuff like that, but she said she promised me she wasn't sending him pictures.
What kind of pictures are these?
Your Honor, I have pictures that she puts on Facebook all the time. That, you know, some of them are old, but some of them were recent. I mean...
Let me see those, Ron, even though I'm not sure I want to.
What makes the entire situation more disgusting is the identity of the man she cheated on her husband with. Regardless of the outcome of the result, it would be understandable if the plaintiff decides to end things with her, because it's all too much to forgive and forget.
This was supposed to be my friend and her friend. He comes over our house, he chills out, he would come to the house and drink with us and crash on the couch for the night.
And this is the person she slept with?
Yes, Your Honor. If she's lying to me and it's not my son, I'm not gonna stay with her, I'm gonna leave her. I mean,
what's more annoying is that the defendant tries to justify her disgusting actions by claiming that the plaintiff could have done the same thing she did. But Judge Lake, as usual, schools her by reminding her of the reasons they are in court today. Perhaps that should serve as food for her thoughts.
You know what he was doing for the 4 days? He could have been doing something.
He
was chatting with girls.
Well, you know what, Ms. McCrory, you're right. But if you haven't heard about any babies being born as a result
How do I know?
of it,
You know, you never know.
But I'm saying you wouldn't.
Not with him.
If you do, you're welcome to come back. But in this instance, we're talking about Keith Jr. I mean, that's why we're here. Because
we shouldn't even be.
At this point, Ms. McCrory seems to be emotionally unstable to continue the hearing, so she excuses herself out of the courtroom. But I'm afraid the hearing must go on, so she has to put herself together because her husband and the court aren't fazed by her tears. Mr. McCrory just wants to get to the root of his son's paternity. Boy, can we blame him? She practically lied to him most times of their marriage.
it's possible that this little boy is not yours.
Yes, Your Honor.
And that's been eating away at you.
Yes, Your Honor. Going through all this, Your Honor, it made me kind of think about things like, I mean, there was a time and period.
I'm not sitting here.
Miss McCrory, give yourself a minute and then come back in. Let's finish this case.
Because it's hard for him to trust his wife after everything she's put him through, the plaintiff asked her to submit to a lie detector test. The purpose of this test is to know the truth about some questions pertaining to their son's paternity. So let's hear the test results.
You asked Ms. McCrory to submit to a lie detector test. We have administered that lie detector test, and I have the results for you. Would you like to hear them?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ron the envelope. These results were prepared by a licensed polygraph examiner. Before I read these results, Ms. McCrory.
After all that has been said by both parties involved and the lie detector test, it's still hard to determine if the plaintiff is the kid's father or not. Well, there's only one way to find out. So let's get to it.
Of McCrory versus McCrory when it comes to 3-year-old Keith McCrory Jr. It has been determined by this court, Mr. McCrory, you are the father.
Yeah, I told you so.
Today's plaintiff isn't in court to deny paternity like most cases you've seen. No, not at all. He's accompanied by his mother to confirm that he is indeed the defendant's child's biological father. Astonishing, right? However, the child's mother believes he didn't father her daughter.
Mr. Fuller, you and your mother are here today to prove that you fathered the defendant's 2-year-old daughter, Milani.
Yes, ma'am.
You say Ms. Nelson led you to believe that you were her daddy and build a strong relationship, but now wants to rip her away from you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Nelson, you acknowledge Mr. Fuller's relationship with your daughter, but say
Ms. Nelson's intentions are very clear. She intends to take her daughter as far away from Mr. Fuller and his family. Now the question would be, why? Could it be that they never tried to establish a relationship with the little girl before now?
Nelson, what are your intentions today if the DNA results prove you're correct?
They will never see my daughter again, and their time just has expired with my child.
Wow, that's kind of harsh considering they have a relationship with her, isn't it?
It would be interesting to know the kind of relationship the plaintiff had with the little girl before this court hearing. And when the question is asked, he gives an interesting answer. But it suddenly becomes an argument between all three of them, which causes the judge to intervene.
I got a bond with Milani. She'll bring her hair to me. She'll let her stay the night and everything for about 3 months.
Not 3 months, I'm positive.
You sure?
I'm positive.
Have you allowed Milani to spend the night with
I
him?
have allowed her to spend the night with him.
We live in Fort Lauderdale. She stay in Melbourne. We have this baby 2 to 3 months.
What's fascinating is this. The plaintiff's mother claims she's sure her son fathered the defendant's daughter. But if that's the case, why is Ms. Nelson stating otherwise? Perhaps we will get to her reasons for being this way in due course.
I need to ask you, do you believe this is your son's biological
Day one
child?
when this girl called me, I said, oh, I'm a grandmother. I said,
I never called you.
Nelson,
I never even had your number to get in contact.
It seems to me Ms. Nelson's harsh attitude towards the Fullers originated from when she informed the plaintiff about the pregnancy in the first place. Also, she claims she was never in contact with his mother, but Ms. Fuller claims otherwise. Now, how do we tell who's lying from who's telling the truth? But one thing is certain. There's so much bad blood between Ms. Nelson and the Fullers.
So, Ms. Nelson,
Right.
as you recall, how did you let Mr. Fuller know you were pregnant?
I called him, he didn't answer. I saw that he was on Facebook, and then I wrote him on Facebook.
You say you never called his mother.
She called
never
my
called his
phone.
mother. I didn't
wouldn't
even
tell
have
you
his
no
mother's
lie, you
number.
want- She called my phone and said she was pregnant. When she had to go to appointments, she called and let us know too.
What?
The defendant has a lot of explaining to do as to why she believes the plaintiff isn't her daughter's biological father. According to her statement, Mr. Fullers wasn't there for her and the baby from the onset. He didn't reach out to her until the baby was a few months old. So now we get why she doesn't want him to have nothing to do with her baby.
Day one, I never believed that he was the father,
You
Your
told
Honor.
me out your
I've
mouth.
never believed that he was the father.
Why is
Hold
them
up,
here
hold
today?
up.
Why is them
Wait,
here
I'm not
today?
talking.
Let
I'm
her
not.
answer.
Thank you.
Today.
Can
Let
I
her answer. Let her answer.
Shut up.
Day
Let her
one, I
answer.
asked
And
her,
let me
I said,
answer.
do you
Shut
know
up and let me
if you slept with
answer.
any other guy, she
Shut up
told
and let me
no.
answer.
I said,
Hold on.
As it turns out, Ms. Nelson didn't really take her relationship with Mr. Fuller as seriously as he thought she did. Instead, she only used him for comfort when her main relationship was on a break. Whoa, that explains why she has no respect for him or his mother.
So now at 5 months old, when the child's 5 months old, you're in a new relationship.
No, I was in a relationship before him.
Oh, before Mr. Fuller.
Me and the other guy was just on a break. So he
So
did
you
something
slept
that
with
happened.
Mr. Fuller when you were on a break
Right,
from another
just
guy.
something that
so
happened
then you and that
that
guy
I
got
regret.
back together.
Right.
The crazy thing is this, when the Fullers spent time with the baby, you would think Ms. Nelson was aware about it, but no, she wasn't. She never wanted them involved with her daughter, all that happened behind her back. Now, how was that even possible?
Fuller and Mr. Fuller. She claims that there was a point that her family member went behind her back and allowed you access to Milani. Did that happen that way?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm thinking all along she knew about this. How we supposed to know?
You didn't know that this was some secret, like
We
I'm
didn't
going
know.
behind.
Okay, we get that Ms. Nelson never intended to let the Fullers spend time with her baby, but eventually, she found out that they did. The question is this: when she found out that they were meeting her child behind her back, Did she make things clear to them?
Nelson, did you ever say, I know my mother reached out to you, that was behind my back. You're really not Milani's biological father. Did you ever say that?
I did tell them that he was not, I told Devontae that he was not her father before she was even born.
But let me tell you something, this baby is a bond.
The wild outbursts in this case is way out of hand for anyone to handle. We can't keep going on and on with this. It's high time we heard the DNA test result and get it all over with.
Baby Milani, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Fuller, you are not her father.
I knew it.